Hey everyone, it's Deja from CrochetEverAfter.com. Today is a new free pattern. It is the one skein Mobius Cowl. You'll see that there is this twist in this cowl and it does not go away. So no matter how much I twist it, it still twists on itself. So this is a seamless. You'll see that there are no seams in this entire cowl. I'm going to show you how to make that Mobius twist. You'll notice this yarn is not the same as what's printed in the pattern. This is a yarn that I was doing a review for, so I just used this for the video. It's also a lot brighter, and the color differences help you to see the special thing that we're going to do with our foundation chain to get the twist. So you pick any yarn you want. You can use medium worsted, bulky, super bulky. This pattern is super fast to work up, very easy once you learn the twist, and you can make a ton of these for gifts and presents. Just remember, if you go with a smaller yarn, you're going to have to increase your foundation chain. I talk about that at the end of the video as well, but you want to increase it so that it is, when you put it together, that the round is going to be big enough to fit over someone's head. Or you can make it as long as you want. I call this a one skein Mobius, but you can make it 2, 3, 4, as many skeins as you want. You can make it as wide as you want. This is a super easy pattern to customize, so you'll see how that works as we go along. But for this pattern, you'll grab some bulky weight and a 8mm US L hook, and we are going to get started. Okay, to start off the Mobius, we're just going to do a slip knot on our hook and basic chains. So they're going to be just normal. It's when we join it that we're going to create the Mobius twist. So we're going to start off with 60 chains. So you're going to yarn over, pull through, and with this thick and thin yarn, when I use it, I still want to try to keep my chains all the same size. So the thin yarn is going to want to create smaller chains than the thick yarn. So you'll see as we go, they kind of are a little bit different. You know, there's little discrepancies, but overall, if I keep my yarn on my shaft, the actual diameter of the chain is going to stay the same. So this is going to give a neat look to it because it's thick and thin, but I just have to make sure that I'm keeping all my chains still the same size to work into. So keep going until you get to 60, and then we'll do the twist. Okay, I've got my 60 chains, and when you're looking at your chains, there's two sides. So you have the V side where it looks like each chain is the letter V stacked on top of each other, and then the back side you have the bottom bump. So it's like this little hump that comes over, looks like dashes if you hold it straight. When you use bigger yarn, it's a lot more loopy, so it may be harder to see. So if you just kind of pull it taut, it's going to straighten it out so you can see it a little easier. So in a regular join, you want to keep all your V's the same way. So I would go along and make sure all my V's are facing the same way until I get to the very end. See, I'm twisted up quite a bit, so I have to untwist all of this so that all these V's are pointing up before I join. Still twisted. And then I would bring it together and join so that all the V's are facing the same way. So my V's are all lined up. With the Mobius twist, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this upside down just halfway. So I just take it facing the correct way. So make sure you get all of these in line so that they're all facing up, and then twist it over 1/2, 180 degrees. And then we're going to insert our hook into that chain, but we're going to insert it to the back of it. So instead of inserting it into this loop here where we're facing forward, we're going to flip it over and insert it into the opposite chain from the back. So we're going to slip stitch, tail here, pull through, and then pull through the loop on your hook. So now I've created this twist that's going to create the Mobius naturally. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start single crocheting. So you'll notice that we're going to be crocheting into the back of the chain. It's the same as doing the front. You can just work into the back loop, but this time our back loop is kind of upside down. So what we're going to do is we're going to chain one. Doesn't count as a stitch, so we're going to work into that same stitch that we joined. And then we're going to go to the next one. So when we work into it, we have our bottom bump and then we have the loop coming over the top. So we're just going to insert our hook right into that loop coming over the top and do our single crochet. And that's how we're going to go. We're going to keep working into this loop. And as you go around, it's going to twist your loop, because you know how we have the front facing over here and the back facing over here. As you work around, you're just going to keep on working into that bottom bump back loop. So we're just going to keep going. I'm going to go about halfway and then I'm going to show you how it's still creating that look. You're just going to keep going into this loop all the way around, and then you're going to see what happens when you get back over here to the beginning of the round. It's pretty cool. So I'm going to get about 7/8 of the way so I can show you what it looks like when we get to the end. Okay, so as you're working into your foundation chain, you should notice that as you're working, it keeps on turning so that you can keep working into that back loop on the bottom bump side. So it just keeps on adjusting as you go, so you never actually see the front side of the foundation chain. So that's kind of the magic that happens, because when I hit this last chain of the round, notice that I am now upside down on the other side of the foundation chain. So remember when I joined with the orange color into the white foundation chain. So these are my first stitches, and now they're upside down. So as I get to the end of my round, I'm now ready to keep on going into the back side of the foundation chain. So this is part still of round one. So I'm doing 60 chains through the back loop of the bottom bump, and now I'm doing 60 chains in all of these loops. I'm sorry, 60 chains, 60 single crochets. So I'm going to find, with the thick and thin yarn, it can be a little difficult to find your stitches, so just kind of pull them apart if you're using this kind of yarn. And I'm going to go ahead and start single crocheting into each of these loops. I don't join, I don't do anything, because this is all part of one round. So you'll see that it's just continuing on. So it like magically turns upside down, and at the end of this final round, you see this yarn kind of twist on me. As I work through, it's going to give me the natural Mobius twist. So now you're just going to work in every chain on the other side. So do another 60 stitches all the way around. That's going to be the end of round one, and you'll see the twist at the end. So I'm going to keep going and I'll show you what it looks like at the end. I'm trying to give you some distance here so you can see the Mobius twist happening. So as you can see, if I hold this straight out, you can see that it has turned. So it's all even here, and then I have that twist over here. So it's going to have this perpetual twist. No matter how many times you twist it, it's going to stay twisted, which is really cool because there's no seam. So people will be wondering how you did it. So I'm at the end of the round, and as you can see, I am over here at the beginning where I started. So here's my tail. Here's where I joined the very beginning of the round and started the first round. So it creates this 120 stitch kind of figure 8 as you work. So let me bring this a little further out here. So what we're going to do is just keep going. We're not going to join because we don't want any kind of seam, and we're just going to keep crocheting. So now it's going to be a little easier because after you finish all the foundation chains, which I just finished, now you can start working into the stitches. So that's my chain one, so I'm just going to skip that, and I'm going to start going into my stitches, and I'm just going to keep single crocheting around. So you can either keep track, you can put a stitch marker in, so I would put a stitch marker in right, this is my second stitch, so I would put one right here, and then keep going around if you want to end right near where you began, or you can just keep going until you run out of yarn, or until it's the size you like. So I'm going to keep going around and around. I'll probably come back at the end of this round just so you can see how distant it gets. So for example, here's the sparkly part of the yarn. So my tail's right in the middle. I have the sparkly part of the yarn on top of the orange. So I'm going to come back when it's gone around the 62 stitches so you can see that I'll be down here by the pink. So let me get around and I'll come back and show you that again. Okay, I've gotten almost 60 stitches in, and you can see I added a stitch marker to the side that I was talking about. And here is the sparkly, so it turns automatically and winds me up on the other side. So our beginning foundation chain is going to be in the center of our cowl, and then there's going to be single crochets coming out on both ends. So you'll see I have 2 rows of single crochet on this side, and I have 1 on this side. That's my foundation chain. So once I finish round 2, I'll have 2 rows of single crochet on both sides. So I keep on going. Once I get to my stitch marker, I just replace it for the new row around and keep going around. So I'm just gonna do a few more rounds, and then I'll come back and show you how it's coming along. It's almost to the end of round 4, or sorry, round 3. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, no, round 4. Can't count right now. And you can see that we have, here's our center, so we can just count out from there 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, so that you can see that we have technically 4 rounds, but it gives us actually 8 rounds of work. So just like I said, we just keep going around, and you can go around until you run out of yarn, or you can stop at a certain point, whatever you like, but that's what we're going to keep doing until I run out of yarn, and we'll see what it looks like at the end. Now, well, I'll show you also how to fasten it off and make the join or the fasten off less noticeable, because if I fasten it off right now, you'll see there's a big gap. So I'll show you how to eliminate that in a second. Okay, I'm getting down to the last bit of my yarn, so I'm going to go ahead and fasten off now. So because this is a single crochet, the very next stitch that's smaller is a slip stitch, and that's what I want to do to kind of finish off the end so that I don't have this huge gap. So if I were to just fasten off right now, you would see that I have this big jump from here to here. So instead, I'm going to slip stitch in the next stitch, and then I'm going to pull through, and that's going to bring that down. And I might even do it one more time, just to kind of keep it going just a little bit with this orange. And that's going to help me get down so that it's not so visible when I fasten off. This is long enough that I can just pull it all the way through, or short enough I can pull it all the way through, and then I'm ready to weave in my ends. So you can see the twist right here. So it is embedded, cannot be removed. Anytime I twist it, it's going to twist on itself. Very cool, very fun. Let me weave in the ends and we'll take a look at the finished product. Finished up the cowl, so you can see I have my automatic twist in it. Let me see if I can get the whole thing in picture here. So this yarn did not have a ton of yardage, so it's a pretty skinny cowl, but you can make yours as wide as you want with whatever yarn you want. This works perfect for any kind of yarn. So just increase, if you're using a medium worsted weight or a smaller type yarn, increase your beginning foundation chain to a size that you like, because you could even make this a really long scarf if you wanted to with the twist in it. So just make your foundation chain whatever size you want and then follow the directions the exact same way. So if you have any questions, leave them below, and thank you for watching.